YouTube. So first video I'm going to do here is on how to glue up EVA rod handles. I've got actually quite a few questions on how to do that. Some guys say they can't get them on, they're too tight, or they make a big mess, or there's all kinds of ways to do it. But anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and get right into how to glue up a rod handle. I'm only going to glue up the butt section and the rear grip. I'm not going to glue up a foregrip, just because once you can do the rear grip, the foregrip is no different. The process is exactly the same. So without any more intro, let's go ahead and glue. Alright, so today what we're going to do is we're going to glue up an EVA rod handle. EVA is this foam, this high density foam that has become quite popular on fishing rod handles, and it's got its uses and it's got its purposes, and I like it well enough in some applications. I generally prefer the look of cork better, but EVA does have its place. So we're going to glue one up. So the first thing you got to do is you got to determine the size and the diameter of the rod. Now, for these EVA butt caps, they don't have a hole drilled through them. They've only got a hole coming through here, and I know that this rod blank is just a little over 1/2 inch in diameter at the butt. So I buy EVA butt caps with a 1/2 inch hole already drilled in them. So when I get them, I kind of do a dry fit just to see how they fit in there. No glue, just put them on, just so you know where it is. Now the rear grip, I do a lot of split grips. If you haven't figured it out by now by watching my videos, you're gonna figure it out eventually. I do a lot of split grips. So what I do then is I dry fit my rear grip, but you're not going to be able to get it completely into place, and here's why. You want this EVA to have kind of a snug or a stretched over fit to it, so you don't want it to fall right into place. So I buy them with as big a hole as I possibly can, and then I'll actually ream it. Now you can see this foregrip it's about half the distance of the rod blank, so I'm going to take the same reamer that I use to ream cork, I'm going to use to ream out the EVA. And it's these same reamer sets. They're going to turn your reamers black, but that's alright, it's not going to hurt anything. And we're going to ream these out, and you can see the small reamer already goes right through, so we don't need to use that one. We're just going to use this bigger reamer, the next size up. So let me grab a drill. And we're gonna ream this out, and I'm gonna do it right here on the bench. It's gonna make a mess, but it's in the camera view then. And I'm gonna run the reamer right up to the hilt. Now there's some people that say you shouldn't ream EVA. I don't agree with that. I've built a few rods now, and never had much of a problem with reaming the EVA and ever having the rod come off. So now you can see here, the EVA is much closer to where it should be. I want the grip to end up approximately right there. Kind of a good gauge that I use is, with the blanks that I use, the rod data sticker is about where I want this. So actually that's about where I want it, right there. Wipe that off, the China marker off. So that's about where I'm going to be, and I'm a few inches short, and that's fine. You can be a few inches short, because what's going to happen is when you put the glue on, it's going to lubricate this, and then you can stretch that EVA down there, and it's going to give you the snug fit that you're looking for. That's about as far as I could pull it down without glue. That's about it. So it's already pretty close, and that's where it's going to be. So we'll take that back off. I need to add some winding checks. And I'm putting the winding checks on now as to give me a reference as to where everything has got to sit on the rod. So I'm going to pull the winding check all the way down to the butt cap there, just like so. And the next winding check, I'm going to run it down to about my mark. See, and that winding check's actually a hair loose. I like the winding checks to be slightly stretched over the rod blank. I want a little bit of a friction fit with these winding checks. There. So that's where that one's going to sit. And you take your EVA grip and you put it back down here. And with your EVA grip you take and you mark. Where'd my China marker go? There it is. So I've got the EVA grip here. This is as far as I can get it without glue, and you want to mark the end of the grip that's closest to the tip. And that is where you're going to start putting glue, and you're going to run glue down to about here. You don't need to run it the whole length because it just ends up making a mess. So now what we're going to do is I've also got my reel seat here, and as long as I'm mixing up glue, I figured at the same time I'll show you guys these foam arbors. Most of the time when you put these reel seats on, you can build the arbors up with masking tape, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they make these really neat polystyrene arbors, which you glue them in the reel seat, and they make a real good positive contact with the rod. It's just one more thing that you have to buy, and on some applications I really like to use them. They're very, very fast, they're very, very positive. It's really a good product. But it's another step, and you may or may not want to use it, so I will show you how to use or how to utilize these arbors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and mix up some epoxy. We've used this epoxy before. This is a 50-50 mixture. So I'll put the resin there. Wipe off my spatula, and I'm going to add hardener in the same quantity that I got the resin. Nice thing about this particular brand is it's really not terribly fussy on how close you are on the mixtures. As long as you're reasonably close, it'll get hard and it'll do exactly what it's supposed to do. And we do a good mix, making sure we get all the hardener and the resin mixed thoroughly and completely. Okay, that's probably pretty good. Again, this particular brand isn't terribly picky. It's going to work, I promise you that. So then what I do is I'll take this styrofoam arbor like this, and I'll put a pretty good coating of epoxy on here. Like so. And I'll put it up and down, all the way up and down, except for this last little bit that I'm gripping with my fingers. And I'll bring it right to the end here. Okay, so we got these styrofoam, the styrofoam arbors completely covered in epoxy. Now we'll take and we'll insert it into the reel seat. Very, very simple. And as we insert it, we'll give it a little twist in the beginning, and then when we get it far enough in, we'll just finish it off, and we'll run it up flush with the bottom of the reel seat, like so. And there it is. That arbor is installed. Now all we have to do is wait for the epoxy to dry, and we can ream that arbor out using the same reamers that we used to ream the cork in the EVA to make it fit on the rod correctly. So we'll set that aside. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do the butt cap. And the way I do butt caps is I don't put epoxy on the rod blank. I put the epoxy in the hole of the butt cap. It seems to save on some cleanup. Makes a very nice clean install, and there doesn't ever seem to be a problem with it holding on. So I'll take my spatula and I'll run epoxy all up and down inside here like this, paying particular attention to get it towards the end of the hole here. And then I'll take it and I'll put it on the butt cap, and as they're on the rod, and as I'm doing it, I'm spinning the blank. And that is installed. Now that's done. So now we've got the handle itself, or the rear grip itself, excuse me. So here's my mark. This is where the epoxy needs to start, and I'm only going to go about the length of the grip, because like I said, you don't need to have it solid epoxy the whole way. So I'll start right about here, and I'll just twist the rod, and using the spatula I'll just kind of work my way down the blank to put some epoxy all the way around. All the way up until I have my first mark there. Now this epoxy is going to do two things. One, it's going to lubricate the EVA to make it slide easier, so you can slide it into place, because it is kind of a pressed on fit. And two, it's going to lock it into place. So now I've got epoxy in here, and when you do this, when you push this grip down, you want to do it in as smooth and as deliberate of a single stroke as you possibly can. So here's my grip. I'm spinning it down, and I get it coated all the way around, and when I get it there, then I just push. And I usually go and I just set it on the bench and I push down on it. The key is to try and keep as much of this epoxy under control as you can. And there I just put a big dollop on there with my finger. The less cleanup you have to deal with, the better. Down to my winding check. But you need to absolutely keep it off of the gripping surface of the handle. And it takes some pressure. That it doesn't go on easy. And you don't want it to go on easy. You want it to be a nice snug fit. So now I'm going to take my paper towel, wipe off this excess. Like so. And then I am going to take a little denatured alcohol. And continue to wipe off the excess. Okay, so now we've got basically our foam handle installed. Now we basically have to wait 15 minutes for the arbor and the reel seat to dry up, so we can install that. Because what we'll have to do then is we'll have to ream the arbor to size. There, it's clean. We'll have to ream the arbor to size, and then glue that on as well with epoxy. We'll put on the final winding check, and that rod handle will be all glued up. While you're waiting for that, you can do some cleanup work on the rod. Right here is where we started with the epoxy. I put a little denatured alcohol on a paper towel and I wipe off my epoxy mark, or my pencil mark, and I clean off the whole surface so that there's no epoxy residue left. Cleanup is kind of important with these things. If you don't get the epoxy cleaned up while it's still wet, it's just going to make for a nasty, unfinished looking build. So anyway, that's pretty much the extent of it to this point. I've got all my equipment cleaned up. When that reel seat is dry, we'll come back, we'll ream it to size, and we'll install that. Basically all you do is, and I'll give you a little prelim, is when we ream this to size, it's the same way as if you'd ream a piece of cork. The only thing is that foam arbor cuts really fast, so you just got to be extremely gentle. Usually I ream those by hand. I might use the power reamer for the first stage, but then when I start getting to the final fit, I'll ream the rest of it by hand. But we'll set that aside. I'll see you in about 15 or 20 minutes when this is all set up and dried, and we can finish installing the reel seat. Alright, so it's been about 30 minutes now. Here you can see the leftover epoxy. It's hard, so this is all set up. So now what I'll do is I'll take my reamer and I'll ream this arbor that's in here just like it was cork. The thing with this is you want to make sure you let the reamer do all the work and try not to put any twisting pressure on it, or you'll get your hole off center. So that looked pretty good actually. So now what I'll do is I'll take that reamer off, put the next size reamer on. I'm going to go about halfway and I'm going to check it, because I don't want to overdo it. Not quite, but it won't take much. Still a little more. This is what you want to do, just a little bit at a time. Close. The rest of it I'm going to do by hand. I'm not going to use the drill actually. I'm just going to do a little by hand. Not quite. Actually got to take it up to the next size. Actually, I think that's going to be too big, so I'm just going to take this . Sometimes even though you've used the entire reamer, just running it through one more time and lightly spinning it will be enough. that's going to do it. That'll work good. It's a little snug, but once you get some epoxy on there, it'll work good. So now I've got this reamed out to where it needs to be. I got to mix up another dollop of epoxy. Doesn't need to be much. Get a little epoxy going here. Like I said, you don't need much, you're only gluing on the handle. Or the real seat, I should say, not a handle. Problem with that is this epoxy is you only mix up so little before it becomes ineffective, but sometimes what I do if I'm doing a rod project is if I got a bunch of those arbors to glue in, I'll just glue in a whole bunch of them. So that's mixed up. Now I'll take my reel seat, mark off right about there. That's where the glue needs to be. Like that. I forgot to mention, this is an American tackle reel seat, and this style of reel seat is what they call an ergonomic, and it's kind of got a little hump in it. So what I need to do now, and that's just for comfort, and it's really comfortable, but before I put that on, what I need to do is I need to spine the blank. So I have to, you saw this in one of my previous videos, I'm just putting a bend in the blank. And I'm going to make a mark. Okay, that's where my spine is, and that's where the reel seat's got a point. It's got a point just like that on the spine because this is a spinning style reel seat. Slide that down. As I put the handle on, I twist the rod. Find the reel seat. Or the spine, there it is, and now I push it on and finish it off, and there it is. That's installed. Now I'll leave that sit for another half an hour or so, and then that rod is ready. Now what I'm going to do on this one is I'm actually not going to do a forecork or a fork grip. I'm going to use a full rubber winding check like that. Just like this, and that'll finish off the rod handle. I'm not a big firm believer on foregrips. I just like to finish them off, but that's the end of the rod handle. And I'll take my thumb. Let's see, that's a little off the spine there. There we go. Then I'll take my thumb and I'll just wipe that China marker off. A little bit of spit cleaner, and that thing's done. It's all finished. So that's an assembled EVA rod handle with a foam arbor. It's a nice clean look. It's a very durable and very practical fishing rod handle. It's not overly glitzy. It's not overly frilly. It's just 100% pure function. So, all right, there it is. Hope this was useful to you, and now you know how to put on a EVA handle. So, if you got any questions, please feel free to drop me a note. Let me know. I'll certainly answer them the best I can. Otherwise, subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what I'm doing here. If you don't like what I'm doing here, give me some constructive criticism and let me know what I can do to change it. And we'll see about, see if I can't make these a little better. So with that, thanks again for watching and have a good day.